News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
We love Great Britain. We love its history, its culture and its tradition, and that's why we're so proud to be part of GB News.
You look genuinely emotional. Oh, come here.
GB News does pay attention to those who are ignored by the mainstream media. The majority of this country whose forefathers fought and died to maintain liberty, to fight for freedom of speech.
The rule of law, the rights of property and democracy. This is the heritage that our country should be so proud of.
Which of course includes our Christian heritage. There's been a huge resurgence in the number of people going to church. Perhaps they're not finding what they're looking for, and they're looking for something a bit deeper, a bit more truthful, a bit more akin to Britain's Christian heritage.
That's right, get ready, because the most exciting night in general election history starts now!
Hello and good evening. It's 9 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight.
First, I will create new Swift courts within the Crown Court with a judge alone deciding verdicts in triable either way cases with a likely sentence of 3 years or less.
Well, first, David Lammy came for the jury trials, and now he's making it more difficult for people who are wrongly jailed to get justice. Also,
abandoning patients in their hour of greatest need goes against everything a career in medicine is meant to be about.
Now, resident doctors are on strike for the 14th time in less than 3 years. Can you believe it? I'm asking tonight, if the police and army can't go on strike, why are doctors allowed to? And
I want to see much stronger action taken across the piece here, whether it's arrests, seizing of assets, stopping people getting in boats.
Now, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has called on the French police to get tough with migrants. And today, they fired tear gas at people trying to get to the UK. Unfortunately, at least 700 people did manage to cross the channel today. Also,
we've made it clear, and I've made it clear long before this announcement, that we should not be cancelling elections.
Well, that's what one of the Tories' big hitters, James Cleverly, had to say. Now, he thinks, of course, local elections shouldn't be postponed again. But I'll tell you why I reckon Kemi Badenoch is either a coward or completely and utterly powerless. And joining me on this brilliant show tonight are the Reform UK councillor Layla Cunningham, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett, and former Conservative advisor Laura McEvitt. I have got a huge 2 hours coming up for you. Trust me, your Saturday night is just getting started. But first, let's get your news with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories at 9:02. Politicians in the US have criticised the level of censorship of newly released files linked to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Hundreds of thousands of heavily redacted documents have been released, but hundreds of pages were entirely blacked out. Michael Jackson, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Bill Clinton and Diana Ross are all pictured, but there is no suggestion of any wrongdoing. The Deputy Attorney General says redactions are in place to protect victims, and that more files are expected to be released by the end of the year. 700 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel so far today as French police clashed with some migrants near Dunkirk. GB News can reveal officers fired tear gas into a large group as they attempted to launch a small boat from a river. The total number of migrants who've made the crossing so far this year is now more than 41,000. Talks are taking place between US and Kremlin officials in Florida aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin's special envoy is meeting with US envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son, Jared Kushner, in Miami. The meeting follows talks between delegates from the US, Ukraine and Europe yesterday, which reported progress on security guarantees for Kyiv, but it remains unclear if those terms will be acceptable to Moscow. The US has launched large-scale military strikes against ISIS in Syria, hitting more than 70 targets. The action was in retaliation to an Islamic State ambush which killed 3 Americans last week. The White House says the strikes were carried out with the support of the Syrian government. The BBC says it won't be making any changes to its Christmas programmes involving David Walliams, who was dropped by his publisher yesterday. The writer and comedian strongly denies allegations of inappropriate behaviour, including harassing junior women at HarperCollins UK. It's reported a Boxing Day panel show and 2 TV adaptations of his books will continue to be broadcast. And Prince George has visited a homeless shelter called The Passage in central London with his father for the first time. The shelter in Victoria is of huge significance to Prince William as he was first taken there by his mother, Princess Diana, when he was a child. Prince George helped to make lunch for people being supported by the charity and spoke to others about their experience of homelessness. He also signed a visitor's book using the same page signed by William and his grandmother in 1993. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour's time.
Take the GB News family with you on any device. As long as you have an internet connection, tune into GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, I have a chilling revelation that I think you all need to pay attention to at home. Soon, the courts will be allowed to lock you up without any right to appeal.
Without any kind of mandate, the government wants to do away with jury trials, and it wants to extend the powers of magistrates to sentence people for up to 2 years without any right to appeal, conviction or sentence.
Well, right now, this Orwellian Labour government is quietly tearing up one of the last safety nets in British justice: your right to automatic appeal. The Justice Secretary and mastermind champion David Lammy wants to make it harder to challenge convictions handed down by magistrates, the very courts where errors are most common. Under his plans, if you're convicted of an offence carrying under 2 years, your right to appeal is no longer automatic. It's conditional on a judge's opinion. And I'd argue, more often than not, judges also get it wrong. Just look to free speech cases without jury as evidence for that. And it's also very important to remember that miscarriages of justice aren't rare. They're happening all the time. The Criminal Cases Review Commission has seen applications surge. Hundreds of convictions have been overturned in recent decades. Innocent people have lost years, sometimes decades of their lives because the justice system got it wrong. It wasn't long ago, was it, that 1,000 people were wrongfully convicted in the Post Office scandal. Ordinary, hard-working men and women bankrupted, imprisoned, driven to suicide, all because the system refused to admit error. And that didn't happen because there were too many appeals. It happened because institutions closed ranks and scrutiny came far too late. Well, Ed Henry KC, who represented postmasters, said this: the scrapping of automatic appeals to magistrates' courts decision is profoundly dangerous. Everyone accepts that justice in the magistrates' courts can be a hit and miss. And here's the most damning part. Magistrates' courts already get it wrong at alarming rates. Over 40% of appeals against convictions are successful when cases from magistrates' courts are heard on appeal. Or around 47% of appeals against sentences are successful. And let's be clear about something. Who do you think suffers the most here? It's not the wealthy. It's not the well-connected, it's working-class people, isn't it? The legally aided, the person without an army of lawyers. Once convicted, their chances narrow to almost nothing. Every authoritarian system starts the same way. Not with tanks, but with this call for efficiency, modernisation, with quietly removing the right to challenge power and institutions. A government that is confident in its justice system strengthens things like appeals. A government that fears scrutiny restricts them. This is dangerous. And if it passes, innocent people will pay the price. And when they do, David Lammy, the Deputy Prime Minister, will have to take responsibility for every single one of those injustices. Right, let's get the thoughts of my brilliant panel tonight. Reform UK Councillor Layla Cunningham's here, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett's joining me, and former advisor Lauren McKevitt is on the panel. Lauren, I'll start with you on this. I'm really keen to get your thoughts on this, lady, given your background in law. But I'm really keen to get your thoughts on this. Why now? Why do you think the Labour Party are doing this? Their argument, of course, is about this backlog, but they're saying this will only apply to cases that are outside of the backlog.
So there's no denying it. There is an enormous backlog, both at MAGS and at Crown. This is not going to solve it, because, as you've rightly said, this is not going to affect the backlog cases. This is only new cases going in. There's also an argument that it will create a significantly increased administrative burden because of the lack of appeal. Those cases will go on for longer through the courts. But part of the really big problem that the court system has across all layers is broken courthouses, lifts that don't function, inability to get translators and interpreters, tech systems that do not work, Serco not failing to provide witnesses or failing to provide defendants on the days when they're supposed to because they haven't transited them correctly, witnesses not being told the right day to show up, and the actual cap in the number of sitting days and the number of courts sitting empty on any given day. There were so many things that Lammy could have gone for before going after Magna Carta. So there is almost no other way of interpreting this as being anything other than some kind of ideological thing, except he's looking at a rebellion of about 60 people on his own benches. So whatever ideology it is, it's not one that's shared with the bulk of the Parliamentary Labour Party.
Yeah, Matthew, that rebellion is significant. We're talking about potentially former Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner being one of them. This is a severe challenge for the Labour government.
Yeah, and they'd be sensible to do so. I have grave concerns over the scrapping of jury trials. I have grave concerns over this, particularly when a lot of it is poor decision-making in the first place. And I think to put it in the judges' hands, judges think very differently. The same with the jury trials. Judges think very differently from the layman, and therefore can get things wrong that, without sounding trite, common sense could see through on many issues. What we saw during COVID and what we've seen in the past is when there is political will, you will get things done. Whether that was putting people in hotels that were homeless during COVID, and we had almost negligible levels of rough sleepers. When Mark Duggan was killed in 2011, the DPP at the time was the current Prime Minister, had courts sitting all hours, weekends, anywhere you could to make a political point of people that had, done wrong, rightly or wrongly. They got through these cases, and actually I was going through the court system at the time. My case got adjourned 3 times. You couldn't get heard at the time because they were putting people first. What you could do, really, as one idea, is to go, right, really sorry, this is successive governments have put very little money into the MOJ, as both ladies will know. Therefore, you're going to unfortunately, we're going to have to get you to put a shift in. I'd rather than pay the overtime. There's no money at the minute anyway. I'd rather us cut something else and go, we need to get this down, than fail people either through lack of juries or through ridiculous instances like this. I have massive concerns over it.
It's really worrying, Layla. I've saved you to last there because I'm really keen to get your perspective, not just as someone who, of course, is a member of the Reform Party and a councillor, a politician, but someone who's in the legal profession. You understand this so well.
Well, appeals is how you catch injustices before they destroy lives, right? And the fact that 40% of appeals go through show that it's not the appeals that's the problem, it's the convictions, right? It's the level of convictions. And you don't have an automatic right to appeal in the Crown Court. You have to apply for leave to appeal. But the magistrates, it is an automatic right because a bench is a lay bench. They don't have any legal background, they don't have any judicial backgrounds, and they do get it wrong sometimes, 40%. And actually, just to go back on that, there is not really a backlog in the magistrates. You know, you get convicted today, you'll be in trial in 6 months. There really isn't a backlog. It's actually quite swift because you don't have to amalgamate a jury. The Crown Court is where the delay is. So I don't know why he's doing this. And just, Alex, I'll just go back because it's not really about a 2-year sentence or a 1-year sentence. A criminal conviction destroys lives, whether you get no sentence, because it closes so many doors, so many opportunities. It prevents you from having so many jobs. So even a conviction without anything can destroy lives. And that's why, and at a low level, when you've got a lay jury, it's very important to be able to... Also, it says, by the way, that they're going to ban it for hopeless cases.
That's right.
Who decides what's hopeless? Is it the same system that let them down the first time?
Exactly, Layla. Exactly. You know? That is what's so worrying to me.
Yes.
It's this reliance, this saying that this system is safe, and therefore we must rely on the system to make sure that there's no injustice.
Trust the system.
Right?
Trust the system that let you down.
Exactly.
Well, not just trust the system, but also trust the system with increased sentencing powers to 18 months.
Exactly.
So it's not just we're no longer going to let you appeal in an institution that has a 40% failure rate. Of those, and 47% of those being deemed to be, worth hearing, we're then also going to increase the sentencing power of the lay bench to 18 months.
Yeah.
Now, you're right, because actually, so they're not only increasing the sentencing powers to 2 years, but at
18
the same... No, 2 years.
18 months.
I thought it was 2 years. No. It's already 12 months. I thought it was...
18 months.
OK, fine. 18 months. With the same stroke.
Yep.
They're banning the automatic right to appeal for that sentence.
Yes.
It's actually... remarkably authoritarian.
It's egregious on two fronts.
But this is what I want to know, because it feels to me like it's an exceptionally authoritarian thing to do. But Matthew, of course, ministers may argue, people like David Lammy will argue, there's such a severe backlog, we have to do something. The Tories sat on this for a very long time. Is there anything here that's salvageable to say this is the right thing to do?
I think it's meaningless in the sense of Layla's right that much of the backlog exists in the Crown Court, and I think you used the Horizon, those involved in Post Office Horizon as an example. I think we have to be careful about those that we're putting forward. Yeah. Many of those were charged with fraud, so actually this wouldn't impact them because fraud is such a serious instance. It can only be heard in the Crown Court. So it will be people like that, but it won't be those types of people. Listen, one positive, it might, if it carries, get some good headlines and they go, no, we are tackling the backlog and we are doing the work. I just think people won't be convinced because they're still going to be sat waiting going, it don't feel any quicker for me. And, the Justice Secretary says himself, justice denied is... I've got it the wrong way around. Go on, Layla.
No, they're taking away...
I know what you meant.
They're taking away an automatic right and making it discretionary on the system approving it, right?
Exactly.
And taking away... It's a safeguard. It's a safeguard against a lay bench that is not trained enough sometimes to give the right decision. So for me, when you take it away, actually, it's not going to create speed. It's just going to be a cruel system. Like you said, only certain people will...
Yeah. Well, it's actually it's going to slow it down even more because there's going to have to be judicial oversight of the appeal to make sure that there is legal ground to make sure that it progresses, whereas at the moment you don't have that. You only have that at the Crown. So if it mimics the Crown Court, the administrative burden on the non-lay bench is actually going to increase as they take an opinion on whether or not this goes forward. And that's another section of the law courts that doesn't require any delay. Now, there is a backlog in MAGs. It's about 360,000, but it's nowhere near the backlog that exists.
360,000?
Yes. It's nowhere near the backlog that exists.
I worked in the MAGs in London and there's no backlog.
According to the Times today, 360,000 backlog.
Maybe nationwide, but it's very expeditious, the mags.
But let's talk about this on a more political perspective as well, because jury trials are the other things that are going that is disappearing as well under 2-year sentences, cases. When you start looking at all of this stuff together, it begins to make me very worried. And Layla, I think about this, right? Imagine you guys are in government, reforms in government, and the press see that you're going after elections are being cancelled. You've got cases being, jury trials being scrapped, right to appeal gone. They would say this is Putin's Russia.
Exactly that.
You know, it's this hypocrisy, isn't it?
Oh, but these are the good guys. Remember?
Oh, yes.
This is the cuddly left.
Alex,
we're supposed to just trust them on the fact that they're not the right wing.
Yeah.
You know what's worse is that they call us authoritarian.
I know.
And you're like, in what aspect?
Yeah.
You know?
We want to I want all these things to be strengthened even more.
100%.
I inherently, people on the right end of the political spectrum are anti-establishment. They fear government. I think too much government, too much institution always ends up in corruption, cronyism and the damaging of the individual's rights.
I feel, and I know people are going to go mad watching this from the left, I feel I'm a freedom fighter. Honestly, I'm fighting for freedoms that I took for granted. That's what I feel under reform.
Yeah. Matthew, do you think there's any saving grace here for the Labour Party in this, or do you think they're actually going to end up backing down because the resistance already 60 MPs strong?
I think it's clear for most people to see that the PLP currently runs the Labour Party, the backbenches run the Labour Party, so if there is a rebellion large enough, it'll be overturned and they'll either go back to the drawing board, or it'll be left, back in a dusty file or whatever. I think that'll be it. I'll be surprised if it passes, truth be told.
Yeah, that would, in my opinion, end David Lammy's political career, because you cannot be defeated in such a
and the
massive scale.
careers is what every backbencher is thinking about. If they're all staring down the barrel of losing their seats if Labour don't improve their standing in the polls, and an enormous chunk of them go back to the charitable sector from whence they came, they can't go back having voted through some really authoritarian, weird stuff over the course of the preceding 5 years, because they will not be employable in their previous sector. And that's what a lot of them are thinking about when they're floating rebellion on the backbench.
But seriously, David Lammy's come into this role guns blazing. You know what I mean? He's like, jury trials, get rid of that. Right to appeal, get rid of that.
Some of this, as I understand, was being worked on.
Well, elections are next.
I mean,
some of this, as I understand, was being worked on under Shabana Mahmood when she was in Justice before she moved to home. So these have been...
She jumped at the right time, didn't she?
She
jumped at the right... She left the bomb underneath metaphorically speaking, just to be clear, underneath the Ministry of Justice there. But look, anyway, moving on, because the Ministry of Justice spokesperson said this: "We are not restricting the right to appeal. The reforms will simply filter out appeals with no chance of succeeding at an earlier stage. Our reforms put victims first, freeing up precious Crown Court time for genuine cases, sparing victims the trauma of unnecessary second trials and bearing down on court delays. Cases with genuine legal arguments for appeal will continue to proceed to a hearing, just as they do for Crown Court appeals." All right, time now for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your chance to win our biggest cash prize today. It's 85 grand, and Hayley Sparks has been on a magical trip. I wish they'd send me, actually. Here's all the details.
This Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win our biggest cash prize of the year. An incredible £85,000 in tax-free cash could be yours. Cash to make your new year the best yet. And we've come to the fabulously festive Aurora Collection Resort here in Lapland to celebrate. Imagine what next year could look like for you with a whopping £85,000 in the bank. You could find yourself on the adventure of a lifetime, or just safe in the knowledge that next year is on us. £85,000 of tax-free cash really could be yours. Go on, give it a go, and Merry Christmas!
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Later this hour, I'll turn my focus to foreign students who seem to have got us into a lot of debt that they won't pay back. But after Rachel Reeves increased taxes by £26 billion in last month's budget, it turns out that the EU nationals owe us almost £6 billion in unpaid loans. But next...
Abandoning patients in their hour of greatest need goes against everything a career in medicine is meant to be about.
Well, doctors ignored the health secretary, didn't they? They've walked out for 5 days now. Next, I'm going to be asking whether doctors should not be allowed to go on strike like our police forces aren't. That's next. This is Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Dordme, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, lots of us are working this weekend. Oh, yeah, me included. But resident doctors in England got themselves a nice pre-Christmas break. They started a 5-day strike on Wednesday morning, just when the number of people in hospital in England with flu was at a record level for this time of the year. Well, look, the police and the army, the military can't strike. So I'm asking, should doctors be banned from going on strike as well? We're now joined by junior Dr. Bashara Mukherjee and Spectator columnist and author Ross Clark. Well, thank you both for joining me this evening. And perhaps I'll start with you, Dr. Mukherjee, because, look, at the end of the day, I understand that junior doctors in this country have been undervalued for a very, very long time. I've got lots of NHS workers in my family. Some of them have been junior doctors and nurses, and I appreciate the difficulties in the NHS. I wish we trained more in the UK, for example, and help there. However, this is a difficult time of year. Flu is at all-time high. Are you prioritising money over patients' lives?
Well, first of all, I want to clarify that I'm not a resident doctor anymore. I'm a GP, and I'm still supporting the strikes. And for me, it's actually more about overall healthcare. And although I don't benefit personally from whether the doctors get a pay restoration or not, I do feel for my patients who on non-strike days are suffering with really long waiting lists and the degradation of the NHS. And this is a direct effect of chronic underfunding of the NHS and frontline staff not being prioritised. Let me remind the public that MPs have had almost 50% in pay rises in the last 15 years, where resident doctors' pay has been eroded by almost 30%. So this is just a case of being valued at the same level as people were or doctors were in 2008. And this has always been the conversation for the last 3 years.
Yes, indeed. And I'll put this to you, Ross. On that point of pay, you could argue that about inflation. Per capita, I mean, what, 100 grand's probably worth, what, 50 grand 10 years ago. This is obviously not exclusive to doctors. I don't think MPs should be having these stonking pay rises either. But I'll put the same question to you, Ross. Do you think junior doctors are prioritising lives, putting money first over patients' lives?
Yes, they are. This is just a grubby pay dispute. I mean, whatever they claim it's all to do with patients, no, it's to do with junior doctors' pay. And if anybody thinks that junior doctors are underpaid, I ask you to don't listen to this sort of, pay restoration. We've been eroded by 30% or so on. Look at the figures that are put out by the Higher Education Statistics Authority on graduate earnings. 15 months after graduation, medical students earn an average of nearly £44,000, which puts them way, way above any other subject area. The next on the list is electrical engineers, down at 36,000. So doctors are being extremely well paid, and they have been for many years. The reason, we can't, the reason pay is flat generally in this country is because productivity is so low. And the trouble is, when we've had these pay disputes in the past, junior doctors and more senior doctors have been, made offers, pay offers on the basis of improved working practices, which to improve productivity, and they've rejected them. And, last year, well, the first thing the Labour government did when it came to power, gave this whacking great pay rise for junior doctors, 29%, and there was no condition whatsoever that they increase their productivity. And, you're in this sort of doom loop of decreasing productivity. The NHS is less productive now than it was before the pandemic. And so long as it's like that, nobody can really have, pay rises are not, real-term pay rises are not sustainable.
I'll pass that back over to you, Dr. Mukherjee. What do you make of Ross's comments there?
It's interesting you say that the productivity is difficult to bring up. It's difficult to bring up if we can't retain our staff, if we keep having to retrain staff, and we are so inefficient in the way that we keep having to import staff from other countries, retrain them onto our system. They keep failing our exams, and regardless, we keep wanting to only focus on getting cheaper staff from other countries rather than retaining the staff that we are training on home ground with taxpayers' money. And for the doctors doctors, you know, we were talking earlier about should they be banned from striking. Well, I'm afraid that people and doctors, nurses all around, they're going to find a way out. You can't hold staff hostage in poor pay conditions and terrible working conditions. People are going to find a way out. They're going to get burnt out with the level of work they're having to do. They're having to do 2-3 people's per level of work because more and more staff are going off sick. People are going part-time. They're finding other means of income. I completely admit that, I suppose, when you compare to other sectors, yes, doctors do get paid well, but we're competing with other countries that are luring our doctors away. They're paying their doctors much higher fees than us. And if you're a talented doctor, why wouldn't you go somewhere that you get paid better? And this is what we're competing with at the moment. So the productivity question is directly related to the fact that we don't have a workforce that's sustainable in the way that we're looking after them, the way that we're making them work at the moment.
Ross, what's a sensible way to challenge? Bashar's made some good points. I think that she's right. I speak to doctors and nurses a lot, and the conditions are pretty severe for some of them. How do we address that and also address the concerns of resident doctors at the same time?
Well, one thing I do agree with is that we are become too reliant on importing foreign trained doctors, and we should be training more of our own. But I mean, one of the reasons we are so reliant on foreign doctors, of course, is that there's been massive expansion in the number of doctors in the NHS. And the idea that the NHS has been degraded in some way, starved of funds, it is utterly ridiculous. Every government since 1947 has increased the NHS budget in real terms very substantially.
Okay.
And we've had a massive expansion in the number of doctors just in the past 5 years.
And we need to look at what the reason is. That the reason is that we have an aging population in this country. More and more people are going to be turning 65 and over. A lot of them very complex healthcare conditions, which means that they need more and more services from the NHS. We can't discharge patients at the moment because social care is in such a horrible state as well. So this means that everything is reliant upon just the NHS. You know, somebody is, you know, their heating is not working at home. They're not coping well at home. They end up in hospital. This is what's happening. We've got thousands of homeless people in our A&Es. It doesn't make any sense. And all these people, all these inefficiencies are having to be dealt with. So I would say if you spent one day in the role of a doctor, you know that most resident doctors, they're not working at 100%. They're working at 120% in terms of trying to keep up with the pressures.
Okay.
So of course this will result in more funding requiring.
OK, Dr Mukherjee and Spectator columnist and author Ross Clark, thank you both very much for coming and giving me a hearty debate on this. If we can't solve it, what chance did the government have, eh? Right, well, coming up next, we'll cross live to France after local police have clashed with migrants trying to cross the channel this morning. But next, as millions even of people count the cost of Rachel Reeves, probably tens of millions, tax-raising budget. It turns out we're owed almost £6 billion by students from the EU. Do you think Keir Starmer might want to start with that for a negotiation piece for his next giveaway of Britain? I reckon we'll be talking about that next.
I hope we haven't forgotten anything.
Travel insurance, I tick that box.
Yeah, but remember what you forgot last year.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading off over the Christmas holidays, I'm afraid the weather across much of Europe is very unsettled. Heavy rain and also some thunderstorms, very unusual for this time of the year. In particular, southern parts of France, also southern areas of Italy are going to see quite a lot of rainfall over the coming days. This quite heavy at times, bringing in some hail and thunder and possibly some strong gusty winds. Heading into next week, there will still be some spells of rain, but plenty of sunshine across Tenerife with temperatures in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GBNews Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards Christmas. For most of us, it's going to start off rather cloudy early next week, but as we head towards Christmas itself, it's set to turn much colder across the UK. So as we finish off Saturday, we have this weather front out towards the west. That's going to bring in some rain across western areas. As that continues to track its way northeastwards during the course of the night, it does weaken a little bit, and generally it's going to leave a lot of cloud and murk, especially across more eastern parts of the country. It does turn clearer down towards the far southwest, and actually northwestern Scotland also hanging on to some clear skies. So here it will turn chilly overnight, but for most under the cloud, temperatures not falling much lower than 5 to 6 degrees. So we start off in the north on Sunday with some sunshine for western Scotland, but eastern Scotland seeing some showery outbreaks of rain. Maybe some more persistent rain for southwestern Scotland and also northern England. But for Northern Ireland, actually, apart from a few showers, some sunshine here and also some sunshine for western Wales, Devon and Somerset too. But for the rest of England, it is going to be a rather grey and murky picture, and actually it's going to remain that way for some eastern and central parts right throughout the course of the day. Some heavier rain also developing as the day goes on for Devon and Cornwall. But for most of us, actually, temperatures still average or potentially above average in places, but I think it will feel a little bit disappointing over towards the east under the thickest cloud. But yes, you can see temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 11 degrees. So looking ahead to Monday, again, lots of cloud around, maybe a spell of more persistent rain for time for Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe some sunshine for time down towards the south, but I think further cloud will begin to move up during the course of the day. Wind still coming up from the south at this stage, so still fairly mild, but note the temperatures beginning to fall away as we head towards Christmas Eve for most of us, and that cold theme continues on Christmas Day.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There, you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. Well, a few weeks after the Chancellor Rachel Reeves unveiled a staggering £26 billion worth of tax rises, it's emerged that we're owed £5.8, basically £6 billion in unpaid loans by EU students. That's an incredible increase of more than £5 billion in just 11 years. And of course, it comes after the government agreed to rejoin the Erasmus Plus scheme in 2027, which, by the way, if you don't know what that is, that allows EU students to come and study here and British students to study in the EU. It's reported that's going to cost us up to £8.75 billion. It is absolutely astounding to me that this has been managed to go ahead. I'll start with you, Layla, because it feels to me, I mean, first of all, this is one thing, it's a reversal of Brexit in some way, the Erasmus stuff, but then the cost piled on top of it. No wonder why taxes are going up.
And by the way, how are we paying for this? I thought there was no money.
No, so did I.
And by the way, that's $6 billion we're never going to see again. So British students have to repay their loan through PAYE.
Yeah.
European students just go. And by the way, also, when we were in Erasmus, it was a one-way street. Way more came in here.
Yeah.
And let's not forget, students are going to have access to work placements, public services. We just don't have extra capacity.
The problem that we had with the European Union that nobody really ever grappled with for years and years and years is we are everybody's second language. Absolutely everybody's second language.
And everyone's first choice.
And everybody's first choice as a result. And the debt issue here is not just European students, it's also Brits who go abroad who have to redeclare at the end of the year and currently don't, and so aren't actually doing their declarations back to HMRC properly. So this is not just an EU student problem, it's also a Brits abroad student problem. But very clearly the student loan company has not done its negotiations with HMRC well enough to future-proof itself against a globalised economy where people may move, and that's where they've gotten into trouble.
So this is going to cost, Layla, it's going to cost British students, because I'm sure it will all pile onto the student tuition fees, but it also costs the British public in taxes, doesn't it?
Well, 100%. Alex, we've got record debt, record taxes, broken housing market, and they seem to think, bring more in, pay more out. Who's going to pay for it? Why are we funding French and German students to live here for free? We voted for Brexit.
While also funding British students to have a less good system than the one that we replaced it with. My big problem with the Turing system that came after Erasmus was that it didn't finance students going overseas well enough. And there were several cases of people having to come home mid-year because it was just they were not able to afford where they were. They either in their housing or their food budget or whatever, like where they were going, the actual budget for the students was not high enough. But Turing allowed for students to go to a far larger group of universities, universities in Hong Kong, in Singapore, in Canada. It opened us up to the entire world of higher education rather than just the European Union. And it put us on a fairly equal footing in a way that Erasmus never did. We took in far more than we sent because there is a fundamental lack of interest in the United Kingdom in learning foreign languages, which is which I believe is a problem and we should try and address. But ultimately, there is a fundamental problem in what people wanting to learn foreign languages, which impacted people wanting to go on Erasmus to begin with. And so what we are doing is buttering up the European Union through this mechanism, which is really important to them because it's the precursor to the wider youth movement scheme.
You've hit my next point on the head there, Lauren.
And this was one of the Treasury's least ideological objections during the Brexit negotiations. This wasn't we want to stop people going somewhere. That's why Turing came out of this, was to say, well, how can we design this better? It was because they were asking such an egregious amount of money. It's £500 million a year, and that's £500 million that can go somewhere else. And to boot, our fees aren't being paid.
But also they get access to our healthcare.
Well, they have to pay a surcharge for that.
Yeah, our loans, and why? It's to get back. It's slowly by slowly creep us back into the EU.
So this is what Lauren triggered me to go right. This is my next question, because Matthew, I think. You can tell me if you disagree with this programme is a good idea. I think this is very clever, because what you do is that at least these thousands of students that will go, and by the way, the average difference is about 1,000% between the EU students coming here and British students going to the EU. That's the mathematics I've been able to achieve, at least. Maybe I'm wrong. But at the end of the day, what happens is those students that do take advantage of Erasmus will be so pro-EU, won't they? They'll be so anti-Brexit anyway. And they, of course, could still study in the EU if they could get around the mechanisms to do that. This is undermining Brexit. It's costing us a fortune in unpaid bills. This is not the right time for us to be doing such a programme, is it?
Well, I think shock horror, to have nice things, you've got to pay for them. And obviously, if you leave a system, which people voted for, fair enough, if there's bits of it that may be useful, listen, I probably want my kids to learn a trade, perfectly honest. I think that's something that will serve you for life. But if they want to go to uni and there's an option to go abroad, great. I've not got to pay a premium on top of that.
By the way. It didn't disappear. It's still there.
It's still there, so the Turing system.
You can still go. My son actually wants to go to Milan. I mean, it's still there.
We're bunging £500 million for middle-class kids to go abroad for a year and get pissed.
Well, it's not like you can't go now.
Not only that as well, can I just add, youth unemployment here is rising rapidly. We've also got massive youth unemployment rates in Greece, 25%. It's 10% higher than we are. Those kids might want to come over here and take those jobs. They might be cheaper.
100%.
Let's be really clear on the difference here. Erasmus doesn't automatically entitle you to a job. Erasmus is a break-year stage within your overall degree. However, this is beginning to be part of a wider conversation that the European Union has wanted to have with the UK government for a long time.
But it includes
on broadening the youth movement scheme, which is everybody uncapped under the age of about 25, 26. And that's where the problem comes in over the Greek and the Spanish system.
Matthew, I'll give you the final word on this. Yes or no, Erasmus scheme's good at this time in Parliament? Good for Labour?
Yeah, I don't see... Listen, we'll see if the negatives bear out. I think it's fairly harmless. But it's
harmless?
Fine.
It's £8 billion. It's £500 million. That's not harmless.
Yes, and I think there's something to be said about the fact the student loans company haven't prepared itself for a world that is totally global, interlinked and move abroad. I remember being informed 8 years ago, when you're done, if you go abroad, just let us know. You can't function on a system like that, and there's something to be said about the coalition government privatising the student loan book during their time and showing that, in fact, the private sector is just as hopeless as other sectors.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah.
Why was this not in the mandate? Why was it not? Why did we not get to vote for this? There's no mandate for this.
Yeah.
No referendum.
There never is.
You'll
know. There never is. We've got to leave it there.
You thought it was such a great idea.
I've got to leave it there. I've got to leave it there. But yeah, there's not really a mandate for a lot of things. Coming up at 10 o'clock, I'll tell you why I think Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative Party leader, is either a coward or completely and utterly powerless. But next.
I want to see much stronger action taken across the piece here, whether it's arrests, seizing of assets, stopping people getting in boats.
Tough words there from the Prime Minister. He's called on the French to get tough with migrants. And today they fired tear gas at people trying to get to the UK. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here. GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's political podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's political podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Well, the dramatic scenes in northern France this morning as police officers fired tear gas at illegal migrants trying to get to the UK. The police confronted the migrants in the early hours. Several volleys of tear gas were fired into migrants, but they were still able to launch their boats down the river and out into the English Channel. Well, we at GB News can exclusively reveal that at least 700 migrants made it to the UK today, taking the total number of people who have made this illegal crossing past 41,000. Well, let's cross live to Paris and speak with the French journalist Anne-Elisabeth Moutet. Anne-Elisabeth, thank you so much for joining me this evening. What is the response to people in France when they see scenes like this? French police trying to stop these migrants coming to the UK. I would sympathise with French people going, let them go to the UK. I completely understand that. But what is the feeling on the ground there?
Well,
people in France would not say so much let them go to the UK, because they know perfectly well that the easier it looks to get into the UK, the more migrants would come through France. So it's an endless problem. It's not something. What they are saying in effect is you can't shoot these people, so tear gas is something. If possible, when they get to those dinghies, having French agents destroying the dinghy close to the shore so that they can be sort of fished out without any risk. But it's a terrible situation because it never stops. And we have the same problem because these people cross France from various places, from southern France, from the southern maritime border of France, sometimes from Spain, sometimes it's more difficult through Switzerland and Germany, and it's not so much that the police is working harder, but it's much more that they've got mountains, and the mountains are much more difficult to cross, and the people who know how to cross the mountains are basically the Alpine Rangers and the police, and so it's easier to sort of catch them at that and put them in retention centres, which people try. But unless we find some sort of united response that might call for, a specific use of the army, and I don't know how that would be. It's very easy to say and difficult to implement. It's not finished.
Yes, and Anna Elizabeth, something that caught my eye earlier in the week is Jordan Bardella has met with Nigel Farage here, the leader of the Reform UK party, currently leading the polls. And Jordan Bardella said that he would be happy for the French to push vessels back, happy for the British to push these illegal migrants back to French waters. How is that being received in France?
Well, it's very easy to say this when you're a year and a half from the presidential election that you're probably going to contest. And Nigel Farage has a bit of an unfair image in France because they don't quite see him beside a sort of caricature. But two people within the hard right and the simple normal right, Les Républicains, the party, the French parties who were in power under Chirac, for instance, there's a kind of interest in this, is how do we do this? But certainly if the British enforce sort of pushing back the migrants to France, then it creates a situation in which fewer migrants want to come across France to get into Britain.
Indeed. Very interesting stuff, Anne Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining me this evening to give us what's going on the ground there in France. Whatever happens over your end of the waters also affects us here too. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
Thank you,
look, we've got a big show coming up for you at 10 o'clock. I'll be talking about whether foreign interference is fueling violence in the West and just how worried we should be here in the UK. But next...
Let me be very clear. The Conservative Party policy is that we should be fighting elections next May.
Well, that's interesting, isn't it? Because Kemi Badenoch said that just 2 months ago. I was on the show when she talked about it, and now she's not, apparently, allegedly, not allowing Conservative parties to go ahead with their elections. She's not letting them stop the cancellation. I think this is a scandal. I think Kemi Badenoch needs to put her foot down with her own party and get on with the job of being held to scrutiny. But one man in the Conservative Party is a bastion of morality, and I will be playing his video next to Kemi Badenoch's video tonight. That's going to be coming up next. I'll be telling you why the public will not forget this spineless behaviour. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News. Now, let's get your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards Christmas. For most of us, it's going to start off rather cloudy early next week, but as we head towards Christmas itself, it is set to turn much colder across the UK. So as we finish off Saturday, we have this weather front out towards the west. That's going to bring in some rain across western areas. As that continues to track its way northeastwards during the course of the night, it does weaken a little bit, and generally it's going to leave a lot of cloud and murk, especially across more eastern parts of the country. It does turn clearer down towards the far southwest, and actually northwestern Scotland also hanging on to some clear skies. So here it will turn chilly overnight, but for most under the cloud, temperatures not falling much lower than 5 to 6 degrees. So we start off in the north on Sunday with some sunshine for western Scotland, but eastern Scotland seeing some showery outbreaks of rain. Maybe some more persistent rain for southwestern Scotland and also northern England. But for Northern Ireland, actually, apart from a few showers, some sunshine here and also some sunshine for western Wales, Devon and Somerset too. But for the rest of England, it's going to be a rather grey and murky picture, and actually it's going to remain that way for some eastern and central parts right throughout the course of the day. Some heavier rain also developing as the day goes on for Devon and Cornwall. But for most of us, actually, temperatures still average or potentially above average in places, but I think it will feel a little bit disappointing over towards the east under the thickest cloud. But yes, you can see temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 11 degrees. So looking ahead to Monday, again, lots of cloud around, maybe a spell of more persistent rain for a time for Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe some sunshine for a time down towards the south, but I think further cloud will begin to move up during the course of the day. Wind still coming up from the south at this stage, so still fairly mild, but note the temperatures beginning to fall away as we head towards Christmas Eve for most of us, and that cold theme continues on Christmas Day.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
A very Merry Christmas to you all from the Aurora Collection Resort in Lapland. We're on an amazing Arctic adventure to celebrate our greatest cash giveaway, a simply stunning £85,000. And this Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win it all. So don't miss out this Christmas.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray. Are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What we're going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
5 hosts, 5 opinions, 5 fearless debates,
5 unfiltered takes on the day's news.
5 reasons not to be anywhere else on Saturday night.
This is the Saturday 5.
You got me. You got me good there. Britain's biggest Saturday night TV show.
It's not a bad brand. Yeah. Uncensored.
Very, very racy tonight on the unpredictable.
What does she say? Can you translate it for us?
And always entertaining.
How can a country go from being led by William Wallace
Saturday nights from 6 p.m. only on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
You're going to want to stay tuned, trust me.
Good evening, it's 10 o'clock. I'm Alex Armstrong. Tonight.
Let me be very clear. The Conservative Party policy is that we should be fighting elections next May.
Well, that's what Kemi Badenoch said 2 months ago. But now the Tory party leader won't overrule Conservative councils who are blocking local elections. I think that's spineless also.
First, I will create new Swift courts within the Crown Court with a judge alone deciding verdicts in triable either way cases with a likely sentence of 3 years or less.
Well, first David Lammy came for jury trials. Now he's making it more difficult for people who are wrongly jailed to get justice. Check out GB News' social media channels for my very, very strong view on that one. Also,
abandoning patients in their hour of greatest need goes against everything a career in medicine is meant to be about.
well, resident doctors are on strike for the 14th time in less than 3 years. Can you believe it? I've been asking tonight, if the police and army can't go on strike, why are doctors allowed to? Also,
I want to see much stronger action taken across the piece here, whether it's arrests, seizing of assets, stopping people getting in boats.
Well, the Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, has called on French police to get tough on migrants, and today they fired tear gas at people trying to get to the UK. It didn't work very well because at least 700 people managed to cross the Channel just today. Also, around 1,000 surf lifesavers returned to duty at Bondi Beach today. Last week's terror attack that killed 15 people was linked to Islamic State. I'll ask an expert whether foreign interference is fueling violence in the West and just how worried we should be here in the UK. And joining me to talk about all these sensational stories tonight is Reform UK councillor Layla Cunningham, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett and former Conservative advisor Laura McKevitt. And don't forget, at 10:30, I'm going to bring you tomorrow's front papers hot off the press. Your Saturday night is just getting started, but let's get your news first with Bethany Elsey.
Alex, thank you. Good evening. Your top stories from the GB newsroom at 10:02. Politicians in the US have criticised the latest release of files linked to sex offender Jeffrey Epstein over the level of censorship. Hundreds of thousands of heavily redacted documents have been released, but hundreds of pages were entirely blacked out. Michael Jackson, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Bill Clinton and Diana Ross are all pictured, but there is no suggestion of any wrongdoing. The Deputy Attorney General says redactions are in place to protect victims. More files will be released by the end of the year. 700 small boat migrants have crossed the English Channel so far today as French police clashed with some migrants near Dunkirk. GB News can reveal officers fired tear gas into a large group as they attempted to launch a small boat from a river. The total number of crossings this year is now more than 41,000. Talks are taking place between US and Kremlin officials in Florida aimed at ending Russia's war in Ukraine. President Vladimir Putin's special envoy is meeting with US envoy Steve Witkoff and Donald Trump's son Jared Kushner in Miami. The meeting follows talks between delegates from the US, Ukraine and Europe yesterday, which reported progress on security guarantees for Kyiv, but it remains unclear if those terms will be acceptable to Moscow. The US has launched large-scale military strikes against ISIS in Syria, hitting more than 70 targets. The action was in retaliation to an Islamic State ambush which killed 3 Americans last week. The White House says the strikes were carried out with the support of the Syrian government. The BBC says it won't be making any changes to its Christmas programmes involving David Walliams, who was dropped by his publisher yesterday. The writer and comedian strongly denies allegations of inappropriate behaviour, including harassing junior women at HarperCollins UK. It's reported a Boxing Day panel show and 2 TV adaptations of his books will still be broadcast. An engineer from Germany has become the world's first wheelchair user to go to space. Michaela Benthaus suffered a spinal cord injury after a mountain biking accident in 2018 and has since become an advocate for accessible space travel. She blasted off from Texas in Blue Origin's new Space Shepherd rocket and said people should never give up on their dreams. Prince George has visited a homeless shelter called The Passage in central London with his father for the first time. The shelter in Victoria is of huge significance to Prince William, as he was first taken there by his mother, Princess Diana, when he was a child. Prince George helped to make lunch for people being supported by the charity and signed the same page in the visitor book as his father and grandmother in 1993. And spoiler alert, but the former footballer Karen Carney and her professional partner Carlos Ghosn have won this year's series of Strictly Come Dancing. The final was also the last ever live show hosted by Tess Daly and Claudia Winkleman, who've presented the programme for more than 2 decades. Queen Camilla has expressed her gratitude and admiration and described the pair as fabulous. You're up to date. I'll have more for you in an hour.
For all the latest from GB News whilst you're on the go, get the GB News app. Scan the QR code now to download or visit gbnews.com/app.
Welcome to the show, everybody. Well, it looks like the Tories and Labour are conspiring together up and down the country. And frankly, I think Kemi Badenoch, the Tory party leader, is either a coward or completely and utterly powerless. And that's because local elections have been cancelled again by this increasingly Orwellian authoritarian government, costing up to 10 million people their right to kick out their councillors. But Kemi Badenoch, after hearing the news, came up with some tough talk.
Let me be very clear. The Conservative Party policy is that we should be fighting elections next May.
And so has her Shadow Housing Secretary, James Cleverly.
We've made it clear, and I've made it clear long before this announcement, that we should not be cancelling elections.
But GB News' own Christopher Hope has revealed that Kemi Badenoch has now refused to overrule the many Conservative councils across the country that would be facing public scrutiny next May. The Labour government, of course, are trying to wash their hands of any responsibility here by passing the decision to suspend elections directly to councils. But that's like asking someone, would you rather like to spend another year in office or lose your job, isn't it? Because they're all facing a wipeout to Reform UK. And frankly, this act of moral cowardice by Kemi Badenoch shows to me that the Conservatives have learnt nothing since their trouncing in the general election, and that they're willing to behave just like the Labour Party are, avoiding public scrutiny. So why won't you enforce your party line, Kemi? Is it because your own leadership hinges on local elections? Is it that, and maybe you're just being a coward and don't want to face the chop yourself? Or is it because you don't even have control over your own party? Either way, Kemi, it's not a good look, is it? I am so severely disappointed by this, by the way, because I've been recently singing Kemi Badenoch's praises, but once again finding that that praise towards the Conservative Party is misplaced. Let me warn you, Kemi, the public will not forget your spinelessness. And they really, really won't. They have very, very long memories, the British public, as the Tories found out in the last election. But that's all being said. There is one man in the Conservative Party that is, as ever, a moral bastion of the Tories.
So let me say this to any Conservative councillor who is thinking of voting in favour of delaying elections: don't. You are not a Conservative if you do. You are doing it purely to retain your office for a year.
Hear, hear. I agree with Jacob Rees-Mogg. That's the kind of leadership that would return some faith to the public for the Tories. Well, how about this? Any council, this is my idea, by the way, any council that postpones elections should have their £13,000 councillors' allowance suspended from May 2026. And then we should also bar them from increasing council tax, because surely this is an elected job. You are being held accountable for those decisions. And I bet it would be truly magical to watch how swiftly they all suddenly discover that they've got the capacity to organise and hold these elections. Now let's get the thoughts of my panel. Reform UK councillor Layla Cunningham's joining me, former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett and former Conservative advisor Lauren McEvitt. Lauren, I'll start with you. You're a former Conservative advisor. I appreciate, you're not in the party.
Well, just to
formally.
clarify, I'm a former advisor, not former Conservative.
Sorry.
I am, in fact, still a Conservative, but a former advisor.
There we go, exactly. That's good clarification. Now, listen, I think when you're a politician, you must face scrutiny whether you like the odds or you don't. And I think what the Labour Party here has done is very clever because it hands the baton down to the political parties and themselves. But it's shown Kemi Badenoch up.
I disagree. I think you've got to remember that the Conservative Party is ultimately a party of localism, and she's saying that she's not going to dictate from the centre, which is actually, I believe, what she should be avoiding doing. And I think that you've also got to remember that a lot of these elections would only have stood for a year. And so the money involved in running 2 elections versus running 1 is actually a very sensible decision to only do 1 set of elections, because the cost involved is significantly higher than that allowance.
Why can't you reorganise after? Why can't you hold it?
Because we are reorganising after. This is after the proposal and what. So when you create a unitary authority, which I appreciate is not something that you've had to do in London, but out in Gloucestershire, where I'm from, is a very different kettle of fish. You are merging district functions into the county function and multiple district councils, both of which had staggered election processes. So what this is doing is rectifying the staggered election process into one election process in 2027 instead of 2026, instead of having elections only stand for 1 year.
So you reorganise after the elections. The thing is...
for 1 year.
The thing is...
the reorganisation is happening right now. It's not something you can park for a year. It doesn't really work like that.
Once you cross the threshold that you can cancel elections for reorganisation, it's a very slippery slope, because voters voted those people in for a set term.
Yes.
And you only get permission to extend that term from the voter. You don't give it to yourself.
OK, the voter voted in the Labour Party, which promised reform of local government, and this was one of the reforms that they promised.
They didn't promise to cancel elections.
They did promise to bring in unitary authorities, and what this is doing is rectifying the electoral system for the unitary authorities. It was in their manifesto. So technically, people did vote for this.
No,
and I'm sorry, I'm not taking it from that they didn't. They got the majority, quite a big one.
They did not vote to delay. If they said the reorganisation will mean that the next local elections in 2026...
is delayed by 1 year.
Can you let me speak? Will be delayed for a year. Let's see if people would have voted for that. That means they either really didn't plan well, or they're more draconian and they wanted to slip this through the back door, basically.
Or there's an argument that people didn't read the manifesto well enough, and perhaps if they had done, they wouldn't have voted for it. But they did vote for it.
Did they say they were going to cancel local elections?
Massive local government reorganisation is always going to take longer than 6 months.
I don't think they said they were going to cancel. Then they shouldn't have said it then.
My understanding is as of Layla's, and I think you make a good point. Maybe it was buried within the policy. However, I think the average Joe like me will look at the manifesto on face value, go, yeah, you want to reorganise things, fine, we don't care, do it. But actually, the case for suspending elections is not strong enough in this case. That's my opinion on this. Matthew, I'll pass this over to you, though, because, of course...
You don't have to. I was very much enjoying the infighting on the right. This is beneficial for me.
Well, absolutely is.
He was about 3 minutes away from throwing jelly on the mix. So.
Well, absolutely. But of course, this is the Labour government's plans. This is your party's, at the end of the day, burden to carry, as much as what the Tories have done by, going along with the suspension, I think is complicity. And there are
political cartel, Alex.
Well, that's what I think it is. I think it's an establishment stitch-up.
No, because then you're presuming that the decisions have been made centrally, and they specifically have not. The parties are leaving it to the individual councils to judge whether or not they are able to.
That is the line, right?
But they're all going to... But if we're looking at the polls, Matthew, all of the current councils are looking at a part of Reform UK that is going to be going after them, and a lot of them will lose their seats, lose control of councils. So you can't really be asking permission from councils. It's like my boss coming up to me going, Alex, would you like me to sack you, or would you like to stay in your job for another year? That's the level of silliness we're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah, but I also think it's silly to think somebody will go, I can keep, 13 grand allowances for another year. If you're on your way out, you're on your way out. And I think
another year of 13 grand is quite a lot of money.
It's not about the money. It's about the decisions that council makes. And they're quite, they have significant effects on local residents. And these people were voted in for a certain term. The only way you get to extend your term is to take it to the voter. You don't get to extend it. What's next? When will they delay elections next?
Very nice. That sounds very nice.
It sounds very nice, but it also presumes that in a year's time they aren't voting for an entirely different entity, an entirely new entity, which is what they are.
To be fair, you either believe in democracy as an absolute or you don't. I don't care what the reason is. You don't just cancel elections for reorganisations because then you can cancel it for something else.
Hang on a minute. No.
We've never cancelled it. We've never cancelled it before, apart for emergencies.
If we start doing this up and down the country and people are in for a year and then we go, no, you got to go again now.
Yeah.
Your Doge unit will have a field day.
Yeah,
surely.
they will.
We've just wasted millions of pounds.
Yusuf will blow a
Then
gasket.
you don't pledge in your manifesto to reorganise local government if you don't have the foresight to know how long it's going to take. I'm sorry. This is not the fault of democracy. You don't sacrifice democracy for lack of foresight.
That's my opinion too, and I think there were lots of people who will share that. I think we can make lots of political reasons to excuse the decision, and there's some good logistical arguments that you've made as well, Lauren, and I understand, yes, it would be wasteful. However, I think the public are quite clearly incited by this. They feel like something's been taken away from them.
Really? Because I think that most of the time people don't give two craps about local government.
I have to apologise for the language. But yes, maybe you're right. However, that being said, when council tax is reaching all-time highs, services are failing, I think it's
a good reason to have unitary authorities and simplify.
Well, exactly, and simplifies everything, which is actually going to bring down the cost of doing government by so much money.
Yeah,
I'm enormously in favour of moving to unitary.
Because the
Lib Dems are no longer going to be able to do with one hand on this side and another hand on that side and blame the Tories in the middle in Gloucestershire.
The Lib Dems, by the way, have also come out and condemned this decision, but I suspect their councils will go along with it as well. The point I was trying to make, and I said I am disappointed in Kemi Badenoch here because she has been quite strong, at least publicly speaking, lately. And I think if she says this is scandalous and she said this should never go ahead and she hates it so much, she should enforce her party line on this. Yeah. And I agree. I understand what you're saying about localism.
There's a localism issue.
I understand that, but at the same time, if you're going to go out in the public and say we should have elections, then you should enforce that, at least on your party, if you want to be taken seriously. Again, looking at it from the average Joe's perspective, it doesn't look like a good, strong leader. That it looks to me, and to I guess to most people watching, that she's just said one thing and is doing the other.
It also looks like a party without principles. Right? If she says it must go ahead for the sake of democracy, then it looks like every other council leader doesn't follow the basic principles of the Conservatives, which should be to defend freedom and democracy.
And that's the representative from the party that can only travel on Nigel Farage's coattails.
Do you think so? Do you think so?
Because they're the only party in the country where it's just one guy. It's just one guy, and they all sing and dance to his tune.
Yeah,
you know what it is?
Whereas we believe in localism in our party. We believe in empowering local leaders, and you don't.
Let Layla respond.
Let me tell you the difference. Nigel Farage is a leader that people follow willingly. We never have back chat like you do in the Conservative. Are you calling me blind?
I'm calling some of your colleagues blind.
Who? If you name them and shame them, if you are.
No, because that's rude and I'll get
if you're going to throw insults, name and shame the colleagues, or don't throw insults. Stick by your words.
Defamation laws of this country before you ask them.
I'm not suing you for defamation. I'm saying if you're going to name and shame someone...
Matthew, would you like to name and shame anyone while we're here?
No, I'd also like to not get sued.
There we go.
What I will concede, though, Alex, if I'm going to be fair, is it isn't a good look. However, I think there's good reasons for doing so.
OK, fair enough. I personally agree with Layla on this one. I think it's an establishment stitch-up, and I think the public will see it that way too. But then what do I know, right? Right now, it's time for the Great British Giveaway, and it's your chance to win our biggest cash prize today. It's an incredible 85 grand. Hayley Sparks, she's been on a magical trip to Lapland. She's got all the details for a chance to make it yours.
A very Merry Christmas to you all from the Aurora Collection Resort in Lapland. We're on an amazing Arctic adventure to celebrate our greatest cash giveaway, a simply stunning £85,000. And this Christmas, we're giving you the chance to win it all. With an extra £85,000 in your bank, you'll be able to indulge in luxury, do those things you've only ever dreamed about. Even tick a few experiences off the bucket list. One lucky viewer is guaranteed to win £85,000 in tax-free cash. And it really could be you, so don't miss out this Christmas.
For another chance to win £85,000 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB18 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 30th of January. The winner may be contacted live on GB News, week commencing the 9th of February 2026. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Don't forget, I'll bring you Sunday's papers hot off the press from 10 o'clock. But, well, 10:30, should I say. But next, I'll ask about the scale of foreign interference that's fueling violence in the West. And it's just, well, I'm going to be asking how worried you think we should be here in the UK. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk
No,
now?
that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
9:30.
It is indeed.
And as the new year approaches, we've got, for the very first time, our GB News charity calendar. It's on sale, and 100% of the price. I should point out, actually, the pictures were taken by you and voted for by you because we've got so many entries. So you've made this. 100% of the profits go to our 2025 charity partner, which is the London Taxi Drivers Charity for Children. And that actually is also proudly supported by Her Majesty the Queen. Really, really
But
lovely
look, I'm just
pictures.
going to take... There's a... Oh, hold on a sec. There we go. Look, how lovely are those pictures?
It's
All over the
really
place.
nice. It's
No.
what is most important is the fact that, as we say, 100% of the money is going to charity. If you pick one up at the GB News shop online, and the chairman of the Taxi Drivers Charity for London is Anthony Moore, and he's here. It's great to see you.
Good morning.
Tell us a little bit about what the charity does.
We do several events a year. We take kids to the seaside as a group of taxis. So this year we had 80 taxis transferring around about 200 children. We went to the zoo this year, and so we've done that as an event. Everybody gives up their time. The taxi drivers just give up their time, all just so that the kids can have a good time. We've got our Christmas party, or the Mad Hatters party. That's in January. And we've got now 700 and... We've had to limit the numbers this year. We've got 720 children coming at the moment.
Wow.
But they will be entertained by singers, dancers. We've got the King's Welsh Guards turning up to give them the dimensions of the dance floor. So they're coming to do, in their full regalia, they hang around, hats on children, photographs. So, you know, we do several things.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News here, of course. Well, it's been reported today that a man who was accused by a Labour MP of being a Hamas operative has been heavily involved in major pro-Palestine demonstrations in London. Zahir Birawi has previously strenuously denied he has links to Hamas, though. On the other side of the world, around 1,000 surf lifesavers returned to duty at Bondi Beach today. Last week's terror attack, of course, that killed 15 people was linked to Islamic State. And it's got me thinking, just how much is foreign interference fueling violence in the West, and how worried should we be here in the UK? Well, to talk about this, I'm very grateful to be joined by a friend of the show, Fayaz Mughal, who's the founder and trustee of the charity Muslims Against Anti-Semitism. Fayaz, if your ears have been burning this week, I apologise, because I've been quoting you a lot and how you're such a great example for so many people, particularly at a time like this when we feel so divided and there's so much hate going around in the world. I wanted to ask you this. It does feel like there's a lot of divisiveness on our streets, particularly with these protests that take place. And, of course, we saw last week's horrendous attack in Australia. I'm wondering how much foreign interference plays a role here. Now, we found out that those two, the father and son, were linked to Islamic State now. Should we be more worried about this foreign terrorist cells and maybe even foreign governments like the Iranian government getting involved in British politics in some way?
Absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for your kind words. I think on the question you've raised, absolutely. We are in probably the worst situation since the Cuban Missile Crisis in terms of real threat and risk to the Northern Hemisphere, at least. So I would say since the Second World War, the Cuban Missile Crisis, we are now at the greatest risk. We have four major actors who are working against us. The first one is clearly Russia and Russian interference in our politics, as well as in our electronic systems. The second is China and China's interference in our academic life, as well as taking information from institutions and stealing that information in trying to basically upgrade its ability to put us at risk. The third is Islamists and the Muslim Brotherhood and ISIS. And we are seeing a certain amount of resurgence in ISIS. And last but not least, we have hackers out there who are trying to hold our companies to ransom. So we have four major state and non-state actors who are putting our state at risk. And so this is a very perilous time.
Indeed, and it's a very difficult thing for the British state to combat because it's so easy to, well, I guess the mechanisms now that terrorists, groups and foreign adversaries like Russia can use, the internet is so easy to target, but also to organise people and radicalise people. How on earth do British people, I guess, think about safety, think about whether or not we are safe in today's world, and how on earth should British people spot if they might be falling at risk of being radicalised by some of these groups?
Well, it's a really good point you raised. First of all, I want to say the British people are the most resilient, in my opinion, within Europe. I think we've demonstrated that in the Second World War, and we demonstrate that now. Now, I wanted just to add into that, the importance here is for the public to remain constantly vigilant. It is not to spread fear. We are pretty safe because our security services are doing a fantastic job. However, there is a duty on us as a second front to defend our nation, members of the public. And that means when we come across people espousing extremist views, when we come people undermining our state and trying to accuse our country basically of being the evil one, if we come across rhetoric that is threatening and aggressive and harming to our institutions as well as to our communities, report it in. Take that position, because people will know in their gut when somebody is espousing extreme rhetoric and narrative. We can know it. We understand it. It's in our gut. Get it reported in. Get it into the Prevent hotlines. That's the government's counter-extremism community hotlines and strategy. Get it into your local police. Tell a charity. Explain what's happening. Don't keep quiet, because there are so many fragmented risks today. And you're absolutely right. The internet also poses a fifth actor, and that is bad actors using the internet to try to affect our population.
Indeed. And it does seem to me as well, Faiz, if you don't mind me asking as well, that a lot of the activism can be infiltrated by others that have nefarious goals these days. What should people look out for? Similar sorts of rhetoric when they're out being activists and protesting? Should they look out for that too?
Definitely. Really good question, that one, because absolutely, the public should be very vigilant and aware and listen and look at the placards. Look at the placards, be aware, listen. I'll give you one example of interference. In 2003, when the Iraq War was happening, and when the run-up to the Iraq War was happening, and I was against the Iraq War, but in the run-up, I recognized pamphlets and leaflets that were coming from groups that would not share your and my value systems. And these were in their thousands distributed. And basically, that was a form of manipulation of a national issue that we were going into. So I'm saying, be aware of the placards, look at the organizations, Google them, keep your eyes and ears open. And if you see and hear something you think is out of order or you're not sure about, tell somebody. And I think it's important because the manipulation in these demonstrations is happening by people who want to undermine our country, period.
Indeed. Fayez Mughal, always a pleasure to have you on this show. Please come back again.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Well, look, don't go anywhere. About to go through the big stories making the front pages in tomorrow's papers. And as Labour step up their war on motorists, what on earth is going to be next? I'll be bringing you those hot off the press in just a moment. This is Alex Armstrong tonight on GB News.
I forecast a perfect holiday in the sun.
Weather looking good then?
For sure, and no worries about our travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're heading off over the Christmas holidays, I'm afraid the weather across much of Europe is very unsettled. Heavy rain and also some thunderstorms, very unusual for this time of the year. In particular, southern parts of France, also southern areas of Italy are going to see quite a lot of rainfall over the coming days. This quite heavy at times, bringing in some hail and thunder and possibly some strong gusty winds. Heading into next week, there will still be some spells of rain, but plenty of sunshine across Tenerife with temperatures in the low 20s.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards Christmas. For most of us, it's going to start off rather cloudy early next week, but as we head towards Christmas itself, it is set to turn much colder across the UK. So as we finish off Saturday, we have this weather front out towards the west. That's going to bring in some rain across western areas. As that continues to track its way northeastwards during the course of the night, it does weaken a little bit and generally it's going to leave a lot of cloud and murk, especially across more eastern parts of the country. It does turn clearer down towards the far southwest and actually northwestern Scotland also hanging on to some clear skies. So here it will turn chilly overnight, but for most under the cloud, temperatures not falling much lower than 5 to 6 degrees. So we start off in the north on Sunday with some sunshine for western Scotland, but eastern Scotland seeing some showery outbreaks of rain, maybe some more persistent rain for southwestern Scotland and also northern England. But for Northern Ireland, actually, apart from a few showers, some sunshine here and also some sunshine for western Wales, Devon and Somerset too. But for the rest of England, it's going to be a rather grey and murky picture, and actually it's going to remain that way for some eastern and central parts right throughout the course of the day. Some heavier rain also developing as the day goes on for Devon and Cornwall. But for most of us, actually, temperatures still average or potentially above average in places, but I think it will feel a little bit disappointing over towards the east under the thickest cloud. But yes, you can see temperatures in the south reaching 10 to 11 degrees. So looking ahead to Monday, again, lots of cloud around, maybe a spell of more persistent rain for a time for Scotland and Northern Ireland, maybe some sunshine for a time down towards the south, but I think further cloud will begin to move up during the course of the day. Winds still coming up from the south at this stage, so still fairly mild, but note the temperatures beginning to fall away as we head towards Christmas Eve for most of us, and that cold theme continues on Christmas Day.
Decisions made in Washington aren't just shaping America, they're shaping Britain too. From migration to global security, from crime to health. Whatever happens in the White House today
will be felt in your town or city tomorrow.
That's why The Late Show is live from Washington, D.C.
Cutting through the politics to show you what it all means for Britain.
The Late Show live every night at midnight.
Only on GB News,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact that Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, everybody. I have got tomorrow's front pages right here in my hand. Shall we go through them together? Let's start with the Telegraph. Motorists face new parking space ban. The Mail. You're barred, Rachel. Rachel Reeves has been barred from her local pub in her Leeds constituency, should I say, over tax rises in the budget. Oh, I can't wait to get into that one. The Sunday Times. Spies invasion fear as Beijing buys up homes across London. The Observer. I wonder why anyone would want to be PM. That's an interview with Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary. The Independent. The Britons sentenced to death for fighting Putin, who lived to fight again. And The Mirror. George's visit to die homeless shelter. There we go. Right, well, I've got my fantastic panel here with me. Reform UK councillor Layla Cunningham and the former Labour advisor Matthew Torbett and former Conservative advisor, but still Conservative, as she likes us to remember, Lauren McEvitt. Right, where should we start, guys? I sort of feel like we have to start with Rachel Reeves being barred from her local pub here.
You mean the pub of the year?
Pub of the year.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the most successful pub in the country. I'm going to go.
Isn't this part of a wider campaign to ban lots of Labour MPs? It's not just her. There's whole chains of pubs who started to ban Labour MPs from there.
Jeremy Clarkson's pub has banned Keir Starmer, is that right, I think?
Yeah, but from memory, there's like a specific chain of pubs that's just decided it's going to ban all Labour MPs if it's their patch.
Yeah.
On the grounds that they're being taxed into oblivion, which is not, not an unreasonable...
The party of the people being banned by pubs. You couldn't make it up.
There's an infamous, Matthew, I don't know if you remember during COVID, there's an infamous video that went round of Keir Starmer being booted out of a pub. This is sort of that was a bit of a prophecy almost, wasn't it, for what's going on here now? This landlord here is saying the Chancellor posed with Miss Knowles in his pub last July, soon after she took over at the Treasury. But, of course, he's been hit with a £2,500 hike in business rates. He's not very happy.
Yes, and you know me, Alex, I'm not a big fan of cancel culture. I'm not sure about this sort of behaviour, really. But I can appreciate people's anger, and I think the hospitality sector, by all governments, has been one that's not been treated very well. We have pubs shutting constantly every week. It's the third largest employer in the country, and I think this is one thing. I think the thing that confused me in the spring statement was the fact that there was a NICS rise when there was negative growth, which normally goes against all senses of Treasury orthodoxy. It didn't seem to make sense. So they're not having a great time of it. I can appreciate the anger. You know, I'm just glad I'm not a Labour MP. There is one Labour MP that is allowed in Jeremy Clarkson's pub. He made it very clear. Was the Penrith and the Borders MP Marcus Campbell-Savers, because he voted against...
Because, of course, he's no longer a Labour MP.
Yeah, for the time being, yeah, that's also true. That's also true. So, yeah, one of them is coming out smelling a rose. The rest of them maybe not so much.
Is this, Lauren, is this the case that now people are getting so... I mean, British people are... we're just conservative. We're not like the French. We don't like to constantly uprise and have protests and things like that on the scale that the French do. You know, maybe I'm being a little bit unfair to the French here. But, you know, it's just the famous saying, isn't it? We're very conservative-minded people. We don't like to protest. We just want to get on with our lives.
Well, Geoffrey Boycott, I think it was, always said that the reason we hadn't had a modern-day revolution was because of village cricket. And somebody else had indicated the reason we hadn't had one was because of the concept of hedgerows interrupting the creation of a serf agricultural class. But, yeah, you're right. We don't tend to do the level of violence that the French are so keen on you know, just your average Thursday. But one of the things that we do is say, no, I'm sorry, that's not for me. And that's what this publican is doing, is saying, I'm not... You can be the Chancellor, you can do what you want, but I'm not going to serve you in my pub, which is exactly the right thing to do, I think. You know, people are barred from pubs all the time for behaviour that is technically in the gift of the publican to decide he is not in favour of.
Because, Layla, the reason why I was asking Lauren the question as well is because I get this sense now with this particular government that people are getting so enraged because I think people don't care about politics until it hurts them. And I think a lot of people are feeling very hurt at the moment.
And in so many different ways, right? It's coming at you from so many different ways that you couldn't list them.
Yeah.
And the problem is that this government came in on a completely different message. You know, we're going to be fair, we're going to be not tax the working person, we're going to be open for business, we're going to, you know, it's all about being fair. And they've kind of done the complete opposite.
No, it's because they lied. And Rishi Sunak tried to call them on these lies in the Leaders' Matter, saying you're going to have to raise a tax somewhere. You are lying to the electorate by saying that you're not going to raise any of these taxes. And Rishi Sunak has ultimately been shown to be correct.
Fair, the Tories did lie for about 14 years to the electorate, but that's another story.
Which is when you were a member of our party, so that one's on you too.
But I wasn't an advisor.
But you were elected.
I didn't advise them to lie.
But you were elected.
Right. Before we get you to get stuck into it, but Matthew, I mean, at the end of the day, Layla is right to point out that during the election, the Prime Minister did actually say, and actually after the election when he won, that this government, that the Labour government wouldn't have a big heavy hand in people's day-to-day lives. Things like this, obviously a big heavy hand, not only just in people's day-to-day lives, but their businesses as well.
Abundancy and a real lack of a feeling of hope for people, and the idea that, you know, the social contract is all but broken, the idea that if you play by the rules, you work hard, you'll be able to get on in life, then yeah, of course, people have only so much to give, and once they're at the end of their tether, we'll continue to do so. The problem is, I don't see things in our society changing for the best part of a decade. I think we're in for a really hard decade.
Why do you think? Why is that?
I don't think anybody has the answers, and I think even if they did, they would not have a majority large enough to be able to pass the things they want to do. And the thing is, governing is hard, right? This is not to make excuses for some of the bad choices this government has made. Governing is hard. People are also not willing to accept sometimes the medicine that they need to take, unfortunately. And because of that, you're going to be stuck in some sort of stasis at the moment, which we are. And I actually think Layla's party, if successful, are going to have the pressure of all pressures, because if they fail, because I think 5 years is a very small amount of time, if it is 5 years, then people are going to give up altogether, because they've seen that all different strands, nobody's doing it for them, and that is pressure.
And then the person who comes post-Nigel will be very bad indeed.
But Matthew, to be fair, we are living right now under a socialist government, right? And we are not a socialist country.
I wish.
We are
I
a socialist government.
Socialist
government, I'll be singing Red Flag right now.
Socialist government. They're not.
Socialist really stands for something. These guys are just fanning about the middle.
They're not rewarding the risk taker. They're not rewarding the businesses. They're not rewarding that pub. They're not rewarding the worker. They're rewarding people who don't work. We have a welfare bill that's going to be 100 billion. They tried to cut it. You have the backbenchers that said no. People are seeing taxes going up, public services going down, wages are stagnant, and you're getting less and less. And then the government wants more and more control, but via various regulations, digital ID, jury trials, online safety bill, and we're not that type of country. And that's why you're going to get more and more people, and that's why reform's going to win a massive majority through what you're doing.
Yeah,
and also what we offer.
But that's a dangerous thing, Layla, by the way, because I said for many years, people will know, we were never 20 points ahead of the Tories. The Tories were just a large protest vote. Now, if you're saying you're going to win because what we're doing, you become a very large protest vote. And if you get in on that, that's very dangerous.
We offer a very different message to what you do. And the difference between, I think, Reform and Labour, which I know, is that we will do what we say we will do, whereas Labour came on a completely different platform and has done the opposite and has pushed through measures that were not in the mandate, that were not voted on. They have serious repercussions on our way of life.
And I don't disagree on you. I've called out the fact that there are many things that have happened not in the manifesto. I don't care what party you are, you have a mandate for the things that you're voted on, not the things you decide need to do.
Yeah.
What I would caution, that I said to the party in opposition, is there are always going to be things that you cannot predict, whether that be international war, Palestine, Ukraine, whatever it may be that rises up, that you've got to also try and factor in. I don't think the party did that. I think the party were naive, and therefore you run out of money, you don't have headroom when you come to statement time and budget time. And I think that's the other thing. If you're going to get in, whether it be protest, different message, whatever, there's going to be difficult situations.
Can I just ask, because I want to bring Lauren into this as well.
I'm enjoying that, to be fair.
Yeah, well, no, but it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think both of them got very, very strong points. On the point of winning the next election, I know we're sort of diverging a little bit here from the story. Bear with me here. For the point of diverging from that story onto the future election, do you think that I get the feeling that the sense of Reform's massive majority right now isn't the same as what Labour's was? I think people were going to the Labour Party because they lost faith in the Tories, and that actually Tory voters just didn't show up. Hence why we,
you've got to remember
won
that
the election on less votes than Corbyn got.
At the last election, a lot of people also proactively voted for Nigel Farage as well. You know, people were saying, "No, I want a big change, and that change I want is Nigel," and Nigel did not succeed in a system that isn't designed for insurgent parties in the way that it is for the establishment parties. I concede that. I happen to like that system, but that's because I'm from an establishment party. I think that the next time around, there's a couple of things that we don't know quite yet. The first is Nigel's ability to get his party over the line in Wales, in Scotland, in local government, and that track record, that they'll suddenly have a track record when they come to the next election. The second is we don't actually know the economic circumstances we're going to face at the next general. One of the things from the OBR's report of the budget, which we all delightfully read 45 minutes before the budget rather than after, was that they had not factored the employees' rights bill into the forecasts. We don't know how dangerous this government is yet for the economy, because because the forecasts have not considered some of the very economically damaging legislation that's coming down the line from the Labour Party. So at the moment, it's quite hard to tell what anybody's going to be able to promise because we don't know the economic circumstances upon which any of the parties are going to have to calculate a manifesto.
Can I just say one more thing?
Of course, yeah.
So I think the difference between Reform and both parties, and this is having been in the Conservatives, is that Reform will always... both parties serve themselves. Reform is here to serve the country. And I think that's what people understand. And so our 30% that are polling for us right now consistently, they're not waverers. Whereas Labour and Conservatives have a lot of waverers that are down the line. But because we take a very different approach, we see what's best for the country and we take it from there. Whereas these two, because they are establishment parties, see what's best for the party. And you've seen it in things they've done.
Well, of course, Nathan Gill saw what was best for him, rather
Listen, we're going to talk more about this at 11 o'clock. One thing I will agree with you, I can't remember which one of you said it, actually, but I think if the next election, if the next government completely messes it all up, I think people will really lose faith in democracy. I do think the next election is do or die for British democracy. I really do. But look, next, we're going to talk about the latest, the latest attack of the government on as war on motorists. This is Alex Armstrong tonight, only on GB News.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Well, it's a long time since I've sat in your knee, Santa.
I remember it very well, Ian.
I'm sure you still have the bruises. We'll just shake hands today.
Well, you're a very busy man, so we're very lucky to get to speak to you.
Well, it's my pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Santa, how come... No, it's leading up. How long is there to go?
15 days.
15 days to go. All your little helpers, I presume, are working away. Getting everything ready.
My goodness me. You know, I have so many helpers, of course, not just in the North Pole, but all over the world. People in this country. As a matter of fact, even my friends at British Gas, they have Santa helpers that look just like me. They've been going to people's homes to make sure that the children are happy, as well as fixing their problems with boilers and things.
Well, because things can go wrong, even though it's Christmas Day.
Yes, indeed. That's absolutely true, you know. But listen, I'm here to tell you there's nothing to worry about. The elf helpers, my friends, everybody all over the world that helps Santa, we've got the matter in hand. And this is going to be the most wonderful, magicalest Christmas ever.
Oh, it is. Santa, we've got lots of people getting in touch and they're a bit worried because they don't have a chimney in their house and they're worried about how you're going to get in.
Yes, this one comes up quite a lot, but can I let you in on a little secret? The truth is that many centuries ago, the elves crafted a strange, magical key just for me. Now, this key can fit any lock in the entire world. Chimney or no chimney, I can get into every home that is full of Christmas spirit and the love and giving of Christmas.
GB News, the People's Channel.
This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. This Christmas, we're inviting you to join the GB News family for an occasion filled with joy. A chance to come together and lift our voices and celebrate what truly brings us closer at this time of year. So whether you're with friends or family or simply in the spirits of the season, we would love to share this special night of carols with you. Carols by candlelight, Christmas Eve at 8 o'clock only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
right, welcome back, everybody. Let's bring you some more of the front pages for tomorrow. The Express. Shops face last Christmas as recession fear grows. The Sun. Josser death threats. A report about EastEnders star Jacqueline Josser being sent menacing messages online. All right, well, I've got my panel back here with me to talk about all of this. Should we start off, though, with the Sunday Telegraph? This motorist facing a new parking space ban. Now, this is Labour imposing limits on housing developments on the amount of parking spaces there can be without a justification. I'll just read a little bit here so you got the idea of it here. Under plans published by the government, councils will be required to impose sweeping parking restrictions, limiting the number of spaces on new housing developments, and apparently they haven't given any justification. I suspect it's to push you to green things. Labour, what do you think? It's a net zero thing, isn't it?
I mean, listen, why don't they just punish criminals and illegal migrants?
You are criminals to them, Layla,
I mean, you know, to tell my mum is 92, right? I mean, she's stopped driving now, but she was driving up to 90. To tell her, you know, you're going to stop driving now because I've deemed it not right anymore and you're going to start taking a bus is frankly insulting.
Yeah, Matthew, it is a little bit nuts. I mean, it sounds here like they're trying to encourage people to take the bus and the train and to use what they call green forms of transport. And some people will argue that's a good thing, but if you live outside of the capital, you know, all these public transport's not as great.
Yeah, no, I live outside the capital. Last train tonight's 11:30. I find that astounding in a city that's supposed to be as global as London. They're going to radicalise me if they're not careful. I've started to learn to drive and I quite like it, actually. So if you're going to start trying moving... I mean, we have to, you know, remember, it's totally convenient. Yeah. And if we're going to do things like net zero, look, it's not my sort of MO as such, but... You move them onto greener ways of travelling by car, surely. There's all these different options. People are clearly going electric or whatever else it might be. That shouldn't... And it's going to cause so many other issues of if you're parking off-road, you're going to park somewhere, somebody's not going to be able to get a pram pass, you're going to cause accidents, people with disabilities, all the rest of it. Just build properties with the right amount of parking spaces and we'll all be OK.
It's really oppressive, actually.
It's really oppressive.
It's really oppressive to say, you know what, you're going to buy this house and you can't have a car.
But also we have Zipcar pulling out of the UK. Car sharing has been proven to not be economically successful. Meanwhile, as someone who comes from a rural area, buses do not exist. The railway station is half an hour in 5 different directions from where I live, bare minimum. You know, the alternatives don't currently exist.
But then what will happen, right, is that councils will slap massive fines on people parking illegally. So they're going to make a fortune out of it. There'll still be nowhere to park and people will just be left working.
And the proof of the new town developments in the last 20 years is that what they have not done is build facilities anywhere near where they're building new towns. So my mum was always telling a story about that new town that's put near her, and her gardener lived there, and he said, look, when we moved in, we were promised a superstore. We were promised there was going to be like an Aldi or and they didn't put one in. So we all still get in a car and go to Farnham to go to the big shop because no one ever planned for there to be a superstore in this new town.
And you hit the nail on the head because why people are NIMBYs, it's not mainly because of the housing, and I've spoken to a few, it's because they don't plan for the infrastructure to match the new housing. They don't get the new supermarkets, the new bus routes, the new schools.
The sewage system doesn't get upgraded.
That's a different matter. But honestly, I just want the government to stop controlling my life. If I want to drive a car, if I want to eat sugar, if you know, I'm just going to do it.
Yeah.
You're right, both of you, actually. And weirdly, I find myself championing my local MP, who's a Lib Dem, and I feel doing...
That's it.
No,
I'm going to the show before Matthew destroys his camera. That is also... You want to...
Do you know
that's
what?
what I got time for. That's what Matthew...
He's put forward proposals, to be fair to him.
OK.
If you're going to build new housing, you've got to already have the proposals for the new developments.
I've got to wrap it up.
Supermarkets.
Layla, Lauren, Matthew, thank you so much. It's been a brilliant show. We'll bring you a boatload more news coming up next. But first, let's get to your weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, welcome to your latest GB News weather forecast from the Met Office. We're looking ahead towards Christmas. For most of us, it's going to start off rather cloudy early next week, but as we head towards Christmas itself, it is set to turn much colder across the UK. So as we finish off Saturday, we have this weather front out towards the west. That's going to bring in some rain across western areas. As that continues to track its way northeastwards during the course of the night, it does weaken a little bit, and generally it's going to leave a lot of cloud and murk, especially across more eastern parts of the country. It does turn clearer down towards the far southwest, and actually northwestern Scotland also hanging on to some clear skies. So here it will turn chilly overnight, but for most under the cloud, temperatures not falling much lower than 5 to 6 degrees. So we start off in the north on Sunday with some sunshine for western Scotland, but eastern Scotland seeing some showery outbreaks of rain, maybe some more persistent rain for southwestern Scotland and also north.